it's 12:03. We can get started. About 315 people on already. More are joining. Hi, everybody. As some of you know, I'm Atik, and I have my colleagues with me on the call today, Tanmay and Radha. So all three of us today will be, explaining various different topics about MProfit, and we hope to make this a very useful session for most of you. I'm no today is going to be a balance between new users and long-time MProfit customers. So, we will try to cover topics that are most useful, and we've also in our interactions with customers realized that there are features which are still to be discovered and are useful, and something that we can cover in more detail on today's session. So we definitely plan to make this as valuable as possible, a session to anyone using MProfit, either for the first time or has been using it for a long time. So so we can go to the agenda slide, Rishabh.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing that the webinar recording will be definitely available, as Atik also mentioned, on our YouTube channel. I see a couple of members are asking for it.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah.
we will definitely be sharing the recording. Yeah. And just to recap once again, for those who joined just now, we request you to save the questions for the Q&A. We'll be opening the Q&A maybe I think 40 minutes, at about 12:45. So you can start putting your questions at 12:45 while we're wrapping up. After 1 hour is over, we will start the Q&A and we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. And if anything is not answered by the end of this session, we request you to please send us an email and we will definitely be happy to help and answer. Yeah. Great. So let's get started. So today's agenda is, how you can master MProfit in 2025. In the last year and especially the last 2 years, as we've added a lot of features and functionalities. And, we've obviously sent out communications, in our emails to you when we've launched these updates. There is also a What's New section at the top right of the MProfit Cloud application where you can see the latest updates that MProfit has added. But today we want to cover, a few different things. Number one being, how to correctly set up MProfit across different asset classes. We have stocks, mutual funds, PMS, AIF, private equity, and many different assets that you probably are tracking in MProfit. And there are new features that we've added in the last 1 year, 1.5 years, that can help you track these assets better. So we'll be covering that in a bit of detail. Second is we'll cover certain useful time-saving tips and features. These are features that can really improve your efficiency when it comes to managing your portfolios in MProfit. So that's something we're going to talk about too. Thirdly, we're going to talk about MProfit Analytics. We've launched it in beta in 2023 and consistently been adding updates to make it more insightful and analytical. And today we are going to try to talk about the salient features of MProfit Analytics. We are still being made aware that many people are not using this to its full potential. So, and people are asking for demos for the analytics features. So we want to talk about the key value adds on analytics today. Number four, tax season is around the corner. We are ready with our capital gain reports with the latest changes, and we'll be at a glance talking about what the new updates are from a capital gain reporting standpoint. We will do webinars in the future for capital gain separately also. So don't treat today's webinar as entirely focused on it. Today will just be touching upon what the new updates are. Number five is something new which we haven't talked about in our webinars before, which is how to track strategy-wise or advisor-wise portfolios. That is something which has, increasingly become a more important requirement for a lot of investors. And, that's something we are going to talk about in a bit of detail, how to track portfolios, how to subdivide portfolios into strategies or advisor-wise strategy portfolios. And lastly, we will definitely be talking about what the upcoming features and updates are. in the coming year, we have launched certain important modules recently, and we also are just around the corner to launch some more really awaited features. So we'll be quickly talking about that as well. So that is today's agenda. uh, Hope this is something that is useful to you guys by the end of the session. And without further ado, I think we can get started. So Tanmay, I think over to
Yeah.
you. Tanmay will quickly be talking about how to properly set up MProfit across each and every asset class that requires import guidance from our side. So I think, Tanmay,
Sure.
over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Atik. Hello, everyone. So I'm just sharing my screen and we can get started. Yeah, let me know once you see my screen. Is it visible?
It is visible, Tanmay.
Okay, great, great. So to start with, structuring your families and portfolios in MProfit. This is the first step, basically, if you are using MProfit, uh, how best you can create your family and portfolio structure. First of all, we have given the flexibility to create your portfolio span wise, broker wise, PMS wise as well. So on the left hand side, as you see, under Mehta family, we already created certain portfolios such as Ajay Mehta, Bina Mehta. For example, these two portfolios are pan wise, but as we mentioned, as I mentioned, you can create broker wise portfolios also. So if you are dealing with multiple different brokers and if you want to see broker-wise reporting, broker-wise capital gains, returns, holdings, we recommend to create a broker-wise portfolios. So for example, if Ajay Mehta in this case is dealing with two different brokers, Motilal Oswal and Sher Khan, there'll be two different portfolios, Ajay Sher Khan and Ajay Motilal Oswal, for example. So this will help you to create and track broker-wise insights, as I mentioned, capital gains, returns you are making, as well as holdings also. Similarly, for PMSs, we recommend to create a separate portfolio so that you can track the underlying investments as well, along with the cash flow data also. So you can also manage cash flows for your PMS investments, as you see at the bottom of the screen, total cash in, cash out, fees, cash on hand, current value, and so on. Similarly, you can also create advisor-wise portfolios as well in MProfit. Okay. And one important feature we have, which is your a family group. Uh, System basically create a default family group to see overall investments for your entire family. So by default, all portfolios you add under one family will be a part of the family group. Similarly, if required, you can create a custom group as well. So as I mentioned, if Ajay Mehta is dealing with Motilal Oswal and Sher Khan, you can create broker wise portfolios, and also you can create a custom group only for particular entity. So for example, just to show it to you, I can create a group. I can call it Ajay group, for example. I can link all Ajay Mehta's portfolios under that group to get single view of all Ajay Mehta's investments. So like this, you can actually create multiple different groups under one family to have a consolidated view.
So I wanted to
Okay.
add something here,
Yeah.
Tanmay. I think
Yes.
this is actually something which new MProfit users would, definitely find beneficial, because the first question for you would be is how to structure my portfolios correctly in MProfit. What Tanmay has just explained is a good practice to follow, where if you have different PMSs or different brokers and you want to track performance granularly for each PMS or each broker, then you create broker wise portfolios for each individual in your family. And what this will do is it will help you track your investments both at the individual level as well as at the consolidated group level by using our grouping feature. So this is sort of a standard practice we recommend when you create your family and portfolio structure in MProfit, so that you can get insights at multiple different levels. Thanks.
Right, right, I think. So I'm moving to the next section to get the data into MProfit. Now, as existing members must be already aware that MProfit currently support almost 1,200 financial institutions data for direct import, which covers broker institutions like brokers, mutual fund portals, other financial institutions, so that you don't need to, of course, manually enter any data into the system. Uh, Currently, MProfit support almost 9,000 plus different file formats for direct import, which includes PDF, Excel, text, CSV, DBF. And over the years, we have actually built these integrations so that no matter which broker or financial institution you are dealing with, you'll be able to get their files and directly upload into MProfit. So you don't need to actually manually enter any transactions for various different asset classes. So to start with mutual funds, we have done a direct integration with MF Central, and this makes you very easy to get your mutual fund investments directly into MProfit. The option is available under API, MF CAS, where you can simply enter the PAN number, enter the linked phone number or email ID, click on Sync Now button. You will get the OTP on your registered phone or email, whichever you are entering in this form. You can enter that OTP once, and system will start fetching all the transaction level data for your particular PAN. So this is a direct fetch through MF Central. Just for the information, MF Central is the portal started by CAMS and KFintech, the two major registrars in India. So we have done the direct integration with MF Central. So if you want to fetch or if you want to add your mutual fund transactions into MProfit, this is the easiest way, a direct fetch option we have added. Now, a couple of important things here. This option, the data sync basically covers all kinds of mutual fund transactions. So no matter if you are having purchase, redemptions, dividend reinvestments, dividend payouts, bonuses, it fetches all kinds of transactions. Also, your physical as well as demat mode transactions. Secondly, this is not just the holding level fetch or just the as on date portfolio. This option will fetch your detailed transactions since inception till date. So even if you have your investments in mutual funds since last 20 years, it will bring all the detailed transaction level data into MProfit. And this process hardly take 2 to 3 minutes max, even if you have 15 to 20 years of data. Uh, Second important thing is no matter which platform you're using, you might be doing certain transactions through different brokers. Um, you might have a certain distributor who is executing the transaction behalf of you, advising you basically. This option will bring all kinds of transactions into MProfit. So if you are using this particular option to fetch the mutual fund data, you don't need to import any other transaction file because all your mutual fund transactions or your folios are linked to your PAN. And this particular option fetches the data through your PAN only. So even if you have multiple different PANs, let's say you have 5, 10 different family members, you can easily enter the PAN number of different family member, enter the linked phone number or email ID, and this will fetch all the transactions for that particular PAN. So if you have 5, 10 different PANs, it will hardly take 10 to 15 minutes max to get your mutual fund transactions data to be added in MProfit. Okay. So once you add that, once your data is added into MProfit, then you can definitely get different insights. Just to show it to you, this is how the data appears on the screen. Once you fetch the data, we have two different views. Existing members must be already aware. This is one which is we are calling it as a classic view, the summary screen, where holdings will appear as you see on the screen, where you see mutual fund name, quantity, that is units, amount invested, current price, which is the current NAV of the fund, today's gain, unrealized gain, and current valuation. If you want to quickly see the returns, you can simply put cursor on the current value and see the return information for that particular mutual fund. You can double click on it to get the transaction level information as well. If you want to see buy, sell, dividend reinvestment, payout, all kinds of transactions for a particular mutual fund, you can simply see that from this section. I'll move to the analytics module. So we have two different views as I talked about. One is this classic view, and we have also launched the analytics module where we provide a lot of different analytics. So as we are talking about mutual funds, I'll simply go to the mutual funds asset class. And I'll quickly talk about a couple of important points here. One is the holding view, which shows the asset allocation information. Now, if you want to see your fetch the data through MFCAS. Within few minutes, the data got added in your portfolio. Now you want to see the performance and asset allocation information. To get that, you can simply come to the analytics module, select the asset class as mutual funds, and go to the holdings tab. This tab will help you understand how your mutual funds are allocated in different categories. As you see, solution oriented, equity, hybrid, debt, others. You can click on any particular category. So, for example, I can click on equity category to see the subcategory view as well. So, this will help you understand how your mutual fund asset allocation has happened in your portfolio. So, you can see large and mid cap fund, flexi cap funds, sectorial thematic funds, small cap funds, and the allocation for that. You can again click on a subcategory, let's say sectorial thematic, to see which actual funds you are holding of that subcategory. So in this case, there are two funds of sectorial and thematic subcategory, and you can see the how the allocation has happened. So for Kotak Banking and Financial Services funds, it's 78.7%. For Tata Housing funds, is 21.3%. These views you can actually filter it by current value or by amount invested as well. So this section will definitely help you understand that, okay, you have certain mutual funds returns you're making, but how the mutual funds are allocated in different categories and subcategories as per the SEBI categorization.
I just want to add something here, Tanmay.
Yes,
Basically, I think I saw a couple of questions also here about
sure.
categorization of mutual funds. One thing to note is that there are two different kinds of categorizations in mutual funds. One is obviously the taxation driven implication, and the second is the asset allocation, which is actually whether a fund is equity or debt or hybrid. Anyone who wants to actually look at asset allocation for mutual funds come to analytics, which is this current app.mprofit.in, rather than seeing it in our classic cloud.mprofit.in app. And the reason for that is that we have actually properly categorized mutual funds here based on the SEBI categorization and the subcategorization. So the categorizations that you see in the classic app are often the taxation ones. For example, certain international funds will have debt taxation treatment. So there you might see it under mutual fund debt category. But if you want to see your asset allocation, it is a good practice to start coming to MProfit Analytics and tracking it here, because this is the ultimate source of truth when it comes to asset allocation from a SEBI categorization perspective. So that is one clarity. I think Mr. Kunal had a question about this. So, I'm just, because we are on the same topic, I just wanted to
Sure,
highlight this here. So here you will
sure,
see
sure. Thanks.
arbitrage funds categorized under hybrid, and as opposed to equity or debt.
Right, right. Thanks for the input, I think.
I think Tanmay, we can move to stocks now in the interest of time. Yeah.
Sure, sure. So, we've covered the mutual fund asset, how you can manage the mutual fund data in MProfit and how you can quickly see the insights, asset allocation insights mainly. Now, to update your equity portfolio in MProfit, it's basically a three-step process. As I mentioned that we already support different file formats for direct import. So again, just to emphasize, you don't need to manually enter any transactions whenever you do trade or you do investments. We support different broker file formats for direct import. And to update your equity data in MProfit, it's a three-step process. First step is to get your historical transactions since inception till date. Second step is basically to apply the corporate actions uh, on your historical data. And third step is to set up the ongoing trade so that the updation can happen automatically. To give you example, let's say I'm clicking on the import button here. I'm searching for one stock, let's say Motilal Oswal. Let's say you're dealing with Motilal Oswal broker since last couple of years, let's say since last 5 years. You want to get the data since inception till date for your Motilal Oswal broker. What you can do is you can request back of his file. Now, in case of Motilal Oswal, you can get Bizob's trade details Excel statement, which is a yearly statement. So to get your last 5 years of transactions, you can easily download 5 yearly statements and directly upload into MProfit. System can read those files as it is. You don't need to make any changes to the files. You can directly upload those files easily into MProfit, which will hardly take 5 to 10 minutes to upload the data for last 5 years. So all your buy, sell, detailed transactions will be added into MProfit.
So here,
This, yeah,
sorry, so here the what we've tried to do, and obviously many of you are familiar with this, is try to build integrations for any broker in the equities and the FNO space, because you get transactions and you want to upload all your historical transactions into MProfit. And for those who want to know why historical transactions are necessary, I just want to add here that if you don't upload your historical transactions, you will never be able to actually know what your actual XIRR is, what your PNL is, what your capital gains are. You actually need proper trade details for this kind of analysis. So that is the reason why you have to go down this path of actually uploading all your historical transactions. And as Tanmay said, it's a one time step. Once you have gotten your historical data into MProfit on an ongoing basis, the upload of contract notes is fully automated by MProfit, regardless of which broker you trade with. So, that is something which Tanmay is going to show you in step 2 and 3. But, just to give you some perspective here, this is the reason why we are going about this entire process, this 3-step process of importing your equity and your FNO data. Uh, One thing I also want to add here is that you understand what the feature does, but if you need any help with how to use the feature, we have a dedicated customer support team. So please, feel free to email us anytime at support@mprofit.in, and our team will definitely be able to help you. If there are certain files that you need to import to MProfit and you're not being able to do that, you're not figuring out which is the right template to use, we have a dedicated team to help you with these kinds of queries. Yeah, thanks.
Sure, Adik, thanks. So as I mentioned, the first step is to get your historical transactions into MProfit, and as Atik rightly said, this is a time step, a one time effort basically, where our team can also help you to get your historical data into MProfit. And why this is important, because this is a detailed transaction level information, and if you add that in MProfit, then MProfit can easily give you capital gains, XIRR, and other reporting, because these detailed transactions are required. And that's the only reason we are recommending to get your historical transactions, the detailed transactions, into MProfit. Once you do this step, all your historical data will be added into the portfolio. The second step is basically to apply the corporate actions. Now, it's very important step. You must be aware that there are different types of corporate actions such as bonus, split, merger, demerger, dividends. This data is normally not provided by the broker. So even if you get your historical transactions, those files usually contains only buy and sell transactions. And this corporate actions are very important, because it affects your capital gain computations, it affects your XIRR returns as well.
It affects your holdings also, because if a split
Holdings
happens,
as well, definitely.
if it,
Yes, yes.
if a stock splits into two, your holdings have to be adjusted. And if you're aware that in an Excel, if you're tracking a portfolio in an Excel sheet, you would be familiar how complicated it is to actually adjust corporate actions. All of this is fully automated from MProfit's perspective. We have added an auto corporate action feature. If you're not using it on the cloud app, if you're a cloud MProfit cloud user and you're not using this feature, we highly recommend that you use it. So Tanmay will quickly show you how the feature works.
Yes, yes. So with MProfit, actually, we have, as Tik also said, we have automated the corporate action piece. So you don't need to worry about finding out which corporate action you've got, what was the ratio, when was the ex date, and all that. With simple 2 or 3 clicks, you can apply the corporate actions either for single portfolio or even for entire family also containing multiple portfolios. So the option is available under actions and auto corporate actions. So as you see, this process can apply dividend, split, bonus, merger, demerger, 5 types of corporate actions automatically. So you can select either entire family or current portfolio. Okay, this is showing since last update because I've applied the corporate actions yesterday. But if you're applying it for the first time, it will be by default, the since inception period will be selected. So you can simply click on apply to apply the corporate actions. And once you do that, all the capital gain computations, XRR computations, then all the corporate actions will be factored in. And as we mentioned a couple of times, you don't need to worry about the calculations. So MProfit system is actually taking care of all the ratios. Mainly, if I talk about the complex corporate actions such as demerger, merger, splits, where the ratios play very important role, uh, MProfit is basically handling that part very accurately. And even even the capital gain computations, all the corporate actions are automatically handled. So whenever you apply the corporate actions and generate the capital gain reports, your capital gain reports will be always accurate. Okay, and the third step is basically, now you have set up the data, you have added the historical transactions, you have applied the corporate actions. Now, whenever you trade or you do investment in Next, how you can bring that data into MProfit automatically. So for that, we have actually built the automation. It's a complete automation. You don't need to import any file here. And the way it works is, no matter which broker you are dealing with, as I mentioned, Motilal Oswal or any other broker, we have built the auto import functionality. And the way it works is, you can simply set one auto forward rule in your email inbox. And definitely here our team can help you to set it up. It's a one-time process to set up the auto forward rule, which forwards a broker specific email to MProfit. And MProfit has a functionality to basically read the contract note which from the forwarded email and update the transactions into respective portfolio. And this process keep on happening on an auto basis. You don't need to look at it, you don't need to monitor it much. Once you set the auto forward rule in your email inbox, whenever you get the contract note email from your broker, that gets automatically forwarded and transaction gets automatically updated. So on a daily basis, your portfolio will keep on updating automatically. Okay,
And
we'll
the
cover
thing
more
is,
on
I
this on
think,
a later part. Yeah,
yes, I think for auto import, I think we will, if people really want to understand how to do this correctly across brokers, it's quite a simple process. Either our team can help, or we will also be probably covering this in a future webinar dedicated only to stocks. Today, since we're going to be covering, multiple different topics, we will try to cover features at a higher level so that you know what is available. And if you have questions about them and you want to use these features immediately, you can definitely send us support tickets, support emails. But otherwise, we will try to cover as much as possible today on the agenda. So I think, Tanmay, in the interest of time, we are at 12:30. We'll
yeah.
have to go slightly quicker with the rest of the topics also.
Sure thing. So I'll quickly cover the analytics part also, asset allocation mainly. So once you follow these three steps to update your equity portfolio in MProfit, you can, from the analytics section, you can actually look at the asset allocation insight. Similar to mutual funds, you can actually go to stocks and ETFs and click on holdings. Now, we provide asset allocation insights by sectors, by market cap, and by simply stock wise also. So, as you see on the screen, you can see the asset allocation insights by sectors: financial services, healthcare, chemicals, reality, and so on. Similarly, market cap wise allocation also: mid cap, large cap, small cap, and others. And simply asset wise allocation also. You can drill down each sector also. You can click on financial services sector to see the stocks you are currently holding and how the asset allocation is for a particular sector. And definitely, along with the holdings, we also have a capital gains for equity shares, which you can directly generate and use it for filing purposes. So I think we can move to the next point, which is PMS tracking and
Yeah.
MProfit.
So, we are definitely going to be talking about PMS and AIFs now a little bit about how you can track them properly. I think that is actually a question which a lot of people have. So, let's start with PMSs. Now, firstly, before I start with PMSs, I want to explain why we recommend tracking PMSs and MProfit the way we do. Number one being that, as you can see, for example, take the Ambit PMS portfolio on the current screen. You can see that you are able to track the underlying shares of that the PMS is investing in. That's extremely important because you are giving, for example, you're investing in multiple different PMSs. You don't exactly have an idea of what the underlying holdings of the PMS are, how concentrated each of those positions is across different asset classes. So that is the kind of visibility that we want to provide you. So underlying stock tracking is one thing where we actually capture the buy and sell transactions of the underlying shares. Number two is we actually are able to provide you XIRR on your PMS investments and not just time weighted returns. PMSs are mandated to report time weighted returns, which obviously is a very important metric to see exactly how the PMS has fared over time. But your investments have happened at a specific time, and based on that, your returns might be, obviously influenced by the timing of your entry in the PMS. So we are actually able to capture the XIRR of each PMS and provide you analysis of how it has performed over time. Thirdly, we are also able to show you how it is comparing against a benchmark index. And that is another feature, Tanmay, we can quickly just, I mean, again,
Yeah.
later, but we can show how it looks in analytics. Under the performance view in analytics, we've actually provided you a proper benchmark comparison for each PMS. And what this benchmark comparison feature does is it actually replicates the PMS's cash flows in the underlying benchmark. So you can see whether or not apples for apples, your PMS has actually outperformed or underperformed a benchmark index. So that is the third reason. Fourth reason is we actually provide you proper visibility into the fees charged by a PMS. You are investing in PMSs, you're paying higher fees to invest in PMSs for the reason that the PMS is trying to earn you higher returns. And so this fee distribution chart will actually show you what kind of fees a PMS is charging across different heads: management fees, custody fees, performance fees, and other fees. So this is something which we also want to provide you. And lastly, MProfit also helps you compare different PMS returns against each other. And this you can do at an overall group level, where you're able to actually see how different PMS investments are comparing against each other on an XIRR level. So if you go to this performance by portfolio chart, if you can find it under the family group in analytics under the performance tab, you can actually see how different PMS investments, different strategies, different other portfolios are comparing against each other. As you can see here, you can compare, for example, this is all sample data, so you can see how the different PMSs are faring against each other for any specific time period. So five key reasons that we've just explained why PMS tracking in MProfit is useful. And now we will just quickly show you how to import your PMS investments into MProfit. Then maybe we can go back to the classic app.
Yeah.
So here, if just like you have for stocks and for mutual funds, we've also built import integrations for all the major PMS funds. So whether you are investing in Ambit or Axis or Carnelian, regardless of which PMS you're investing in, MProfit can help you import data for that PMS directly into our platform. We have actually built templates, import templates that can directly read transaction statements and bank book statements for PMSs. Now, importing data for PMSs is a two-step process. Number one, being you import the transaction statement. The transaction statement actually contains the underlying buy and sell transactions for a PMS. So that is the first statement that you would import. You would get this from the PMS itself, either through the online login or through the RM or whoever it is. You'll get the transaction statement and you will import this directly into MProfit by selecting the corresponding template. So you can see a list of all the different PMSs that we support here. So regardless of which PMS you're investing in, you can just select the template for that PMS and upload the statement that will capture the actual buy sell transactions. And secondly, you will import the bank book statement. Now, what is a bank book statement? A bank book statement is a statement that actually provides cash flow level details for the PMS. The total cash invested into the PMS, the cash paid back by the PMS, the idle cash on hand, the actual fees charged. These details are actually provided in the bank book. And we also support the direct import of bank book statements from all major PMS providers as well. So once you've imported the transaction statement, all you need to do is upload the bank book statement. Once you have done this process, two statements are imported for any specific PMS. Then you can just close out of
Yeah.
it. You can see what kind of view we provide you on the screen. We show you, all the underlying shares that are currently held by the PMS. You can also get a transaction level view for all of these shares that the PMS is invested in. And at the bottom, you can see, snapshot view of the total cash allocated to the PMS, the total cash out paid back by the PMS, the total fees charged by the PMS, the cash on hand, idle cash on hand, which is not currently invested, and the current invested value. So we provide correspondingly a detailed performance snapshot here, which actually can tell you what the XIRR of the PMS is by actually factoring in all the different cash flow details. So that's also something we definitely provide. So this XIRR includes any opportunity cost of idle cash that has not been invested, or that can be opportunity cost, but in a bad market, that can also, when you're sitting on cash, obviously that can increase your XIRR. So this actually takes into account the impact of cash in the PMS. And This is a feature which you can track for every single PMS investment that you've made. We recommend setting up your portfolios, as Tanmay explained in the beginning, PMS wise, so that you can see your data for each and every PMS individually and then compare different PMSs using a performance by portfolio feature. One quick thing I want to also touch upon is, generally cash balances in any PMS are provided in the bank book statement. But if you are investing in advisory strategies, especially NDPMS strategies, where cash balances, you don't have that uh, direct data point provided by your advisor. And if you are, for example, then maybe we can close out of this. If you are,
Yeah.
tracking an advisory portfolio separately, I think there is a portfolio then. Yeah. So yeah, now you can set up auto cash balance computation in MProfit. You can click edit portfolio and you can just select this particular feature. And what this will do is, depending on what trades are happening in that particular advisory strategy, this feature will compute the cash balance automatically. We don't recommend you enable this feature for regular PMSs, because PMSs do report the cash balance in the bank book file. So you don't need to do this for PMSs, but for certain advisory strategies that you are investing in, this is a very useful feature. For example, if you have set up a demat account where you are running an advisory strategy, in that particular account, auto cash balance computation can be enabled to help you see what the latest idle broker cash balance is in your broker account, and that way the XIRR will always stay updated. So those people who want to use auto cash balance computation in for cash flow tracking, you can definitely enable this for any portfolio, but we recommend doing it not for PMS portfolios but for advisory portfolios, wherever you don't get the cash balance. So I think for today, we will stop right here for PMSs. We had done a webinar a couple of months ago on PMS tracking in MProfit. You can find it on our YouTube channel. You can definitely refer to that if you want more insights on how to track PMSs accurately. But for now, we will move on to AIFs. And Radha, I want to introduce Radha. She's joining MProfit's webinar for the first time. So Radha, welcome, and you can
You.
explain how AIF tracking in MProfit works.
Right. Similar to how we have our direct import templates for stocks, FNO and PMS, we have direct import supported for all major AIFs as well. So you can click on import, and all the AIF templates that you get, the statement of accounts that you get from your AIF providers, usually they are either on monthly basis or quarterly basis, depending on the frequency provided by your AIF. You can import these AIF statements into our MProfit software. All the transactions, your drawdowns, the income that you have received, all different kinds of income ranging from interest, dividend, or any other kind of income that is generated on your AIF, and the current valuation. All these three important parameters which are available in your statement of accounts will be captured by the system, and you will be able to analyze your AIF in its entirety. Similar to equities, the auto import feature is also available for AIF. So anytime you receive your statement of account from the AIF fund house, that can be directly imported into the system.
So I just wanted to add here, one thing I missed for PMS is also, once you've imported your historical transactions for PMSs on an ongoing basis, and this applies to AIFs also, you receive the monthly statement for PMS and AIF both. And just like you set up the auto forwarding rule for your stock investments, you can also do the same for your PMS and AIF investments, so that as soon as your PMS or your AIF monthly transaction statement comes in, it automatically gets forwarded to your MProfit account. Now, obviously, you don't necessarily have to set up the auto forward rule for PMS and AIF because it's a monthly update and it's easy to just upload the statement one time a month. So it totally depends on your comfort level and convenience if you want to do this or not. But this is just another feature which is important to note. For AIFs, again, it's important to track the drawdowns, the investments, the income distributions. So we have actually been able to capture all of these details directly from the statement of account that the AIF provides. So Tanmay, we can just show one AIF,
Yeah.
and basically, once you import the AIF statement of accounts, as you are seeing on the screen, you have 5 or 6 different AIFs here, sample data. MProfit will automatically be able to provide you insights like the total amount invested, the current value, the unrealized gain, and the XIRR of the AIF. So, and this is something we actually pick up the current valuation of the AIF from the statement itself. Uh, One major update here is that we are in the process of working on certain more updates that enhance AIF tracking even more holistically. So, there might be some more questions around AIFs. We are going to be adding updates to AIF as a category in the very near future. So, that's something to note. But basically, for PMS and AIFs, just to recap, we have proper import integrations that can automate the capturing of data, transaction level data across these two asset classes, and make life a lot easier in tracking and consolidating these kinds of investments in one place. So I think with that, we've covered major asset classes from an import perspective. Other asset classes like real estate, private equity, FDs, we have Excel templates that you can use to upload data in bulk, or you can also just add them manually, because some of these are low volume asset classes where you just have to upload them one time. And if you need any clarity on how to upload your insurance, or jewelry, or real estate, private equity, NCDs, any of these asset classes, you want help on how to import them, it's fairly straightforward. You can either upload them manually or use our bulk Excel templates, and our team is definitely there to help you with these as well. So, it's 12:45 now. We are going to quickly talk now about some of the useful and time-saving tips that MProfit provides. So, Tanmay, I think we've talked about auto import, we've talked about auto corporate actions. We can now
Yeah.
talk about reconciliation. I think that is something which a lot of people will find value in, how to reconcile data seamlessly and in the most automated way possible. And when I talk about reconciliation, I want to bring up an important point here. Reconciliation is, something which you should definitely do from a quantity perspective. Once you've imported your trades into MProfit, you will definitely want to see whether or not the quantities that you have imported for each asset are actually tallying with what your holding statement provides. So for a PMS, for example, the portfolio appraisal statement for any PMS can be used to reconcile your data that you've imported into MProfit. Similarly, for stocks, you have a demat statement. Any broker provides you, instead of the transaction statement, they also provide you a basic demat statement, which just includes your holdings. MProfit can actually help you auto reconcile your data. We have a reconciliation feature, which Tanma you can show on the screen. And this is
So,
something, yeah.
yeah. So under tool section, you can there is this option called reconcile holdings, and as MProfit has options to get your historical transactions, apply auto corporate actions, we recommend to do the reconciliation at least on a monthly basis. It's very important to reconcile the data with your demat holdings or broker holdings. And as Atik mentioned, it's a very easy process. You can simply get your holding statement either from the broker, or you can use NSDL, CDSL, ECAS statements as well to do the reconciliation. You can simply upload the ECAS statement or broker's holding statement into MProfit, and MProfit Recon module basically checks the quantity base information. So it will match the quantity from the holding statement and compare it with your MProfit portfolio holding. And system will itself give you a nice reconciliation view, mentioning that, okay, if you have 50 stocks in your portfolio, 45 stocks are getting reconciled and there is a discrepancy in 5 stocks. We also show the discrepancy that certain stock you should have 100 quantity as per the demat holding statement, but in MProfit, let's say you have 50 quantity. So you can check if you have not applied the corporate actions properly, or certain cases, very rare cases, the off-market transactions, if there is a demat transfer or there is a buyback happened, uh, or there is a IPO you have applied. So this specific off-market transaction needs to be added in MProfit. I'll cover that as well quickly. So this is something which neither broker provide you, because whenever we talk about back office statements and contract notes, that usually contains only buy and sell transactions. But off-market transactions, which are very rare transaction, I would say, like buyback, IPOs, or demat transfers, if you're doing, if you're transferring certain shares from one demat to another, those transactions we recommend to add it one time in MProfit. So a reconciliation module will basically flags a discrepancy due to such transactions, and it's very easy option. So you can simply right click on a particular stock, go to other transactions, and there is an option which says add off market transactions. You can simply click on this option, and as you can see, you can add off market buy, IPOs, right issues, if you have if you're doing any installment payments for right issues to make it partly paid and then fully paid, if you're selling any of shares off market, or if you want to add any buyback transactions, you can add that from this view. So from this form, once you add the transactions, your data will be definitely get reconciled with the demat holdings. This information, these transactions may not required if you don't have any buybacks, IPOs, or off market transactions. In that case, importing your historical transactions and contract note will be more than enough to reconcile your data. Okay, I think you would like to cover anything
Yeah,
on this
so I
point.
just wanted to add here one more point. So reconciliation is important to make sure that all your trades are properly imported. Like Tanmay said, certain off-market trades are not provided. Demat transfers are not provided in broker transaction statements. So quantities definitely need to be reconciled. But coming to an important point here, when you're trying to reconcile data, and you're trying to reconcile capital gains, for example, please note that we follow an industry standard capital gain computation methodology, and that applies consistently across all your MProfit portfolios. However, there are brokers who definitely use different accepted methodologies around capital gain computation, and in fact, all brokers are also not consistent in terms of how they compute capital gains. So when you see any difference, a small difference between the capital gain reported in MProfit and the capital gain provided by your broker, if ever that happens, our capital gains are matching with many brokers already, for example, like Zerodha and Angel also. But if you see, where capital gains are slightly different in the capital gain report between MProfit and a broker, you will it does not mean that one is wrong or the other is wrong. There are different accepted methodologies around computing capital gains, and that is something which you can definitely check with your CA and get it verified. But MProfit's capital gains are definitely verified by many CAs. We have many CAs using MProfit today, so from that perspective, we are very, very mindful and accurate when we provide capital gain reporting here. So if you ever see any kind of small discrepancies in capital gain reporting, just make sure that your holdings firstly are reconciled. If that is the case, then generally speaking, both methods can be accepted from a tax perspective. But one more thing I also wanted to add here is that there are capital gain nuances that we can handle and maybe some brokers cannot. For example, demergers, off market transactions, demat transfers. Brokers will not have access to details around these kinds of points. So when you're relying on a broker's tax P&L report, you have to bear in mind that there are limitations there inherently, and that is where MProfit comes in, and that is where we've done a lot of work to make sure that the latest taxation guidelines are properly handled in MProfit. And also, we are able to take into account various types of transactions like buybacks, and there is a taxation nuance which comes into play. The bonus stripping rules come into play for bonus transactions. Demergers have a cost ratio and a quantity ratio both. So quantity ratio applies to the holdings, but the cost ratio is what sometimes brokers do not have access to, and they will not be able to provide accurate capital gains on demerged shares. So that is where MProfit can really add value for you as well. So I just wanted to clarify that one thing when it comes to reconciliation. Make sure holdings are properly reconciled. When it comes to capital gains, there are nuances that have to be considered. And since we're talking about capital gains, Tanmay, I think one thing we can now talk about briefly, Radha, is
Yes.
the new taxation guidelines that have been incorporated in MProfit's capital gain reports. So, Radha, maybe we can just spend a few minutes just explaining what the updates are.
Sure. So, as you guys would be knowing, last year in the budget, there have been certain changes which have been made to the holding period definitions for certain asset classes like debt mutual funds, hybrid mutual funds, sovereign gold bonds, REITs, InvITs, debt ETFs. So, we've taken into consideration all the changes that have happened. For example, the sovereign gold bonds, the REITs and InvITs, earlier the definition of calculating long term was 3 years of holding period, which has now reduced to just 1 year. So we've made those changes. Similarly, for debt mutual funds, depending on the date of purchase, if you've purchased it before 1st April 2023, there is a different rule. If you've purchased it after 1st April 2023, there's a different rule for calculating short term and long term. So we've taken those into consideration. So now when you download our capital gains in the ITR format report, you will know that all these changes for holding period have been correctly applied to your portfolio. So when you see the short term and long term split, it will be as per the new calculation of the methodology. Similarly, in the upcoming budget, which we'll be having in Feb, if there is at all any changes pertaining to capital gains, short term or long term definition changes or calculation changes which they come up with, we make sure that all of those changes are also applied. So when you're filing your returns, you don't face any issues with that. So now the capital gain report, which is on the screen, you will be able to see it. It is as per the latest guidelines, and all the nuances pertaining to the definitions for classifying your capital gain into short term or long term have been considered. So you can use this statement. Similarly, if you want to even use the unrealized capital gain report, that report will also have the new definitions for classifying your gains into short term and long term. So you can also use this report if you want to check what would be the effect on your capital gains if you're selling a script or a fund today based on today's prices. Anything else you would like to add to this, Atik?
Thanks, Radha. No, I think that's good. In the interest of time, we will not cover more on capital gains today. But yes, just to summarize, we have added the latest updates from the 2024 budget. And now when you file your capital gains, like for example, the holding period of various assets, the definition changes have been incorporated. The 23rd July consideration, that has been added as well to MProfit. So, you can definitely go ahead and start using our capital gain reports in the upcoming tax season. And we do this every year. So we are always staying ready, with tax season, regardless of what changes come from the budget. And yeah, I think we now can move on rather to the next point. And the next point we can cover is the key features in analytics, MProfit analytics. Here we want to talk a little bit about some of the analytical features that we've added recently, which will definitely add value to your portfolio tracking and analysis in our new analytics app.mprofit.in. We've done a webinar on analytics in the past. It is on our YouTube channel. But today, what Radha is going to focus on are some key cherry-picked features from analytics that definitely you should start using now. So Radha, without any further ado, please continue.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right. So first, what I would like to discuss about here is if you can go to the holdings tab, we have now added certain asset allocation bases your category and asset class. For category, if you can see, we've categorized your asset classes into few standard categories like equity, debt, gold plus, retirement, real estate. So for example, if you click on equity, you will be able to see that equity consists of your stocks and equity ETFs, your private equity investments, and also your equity mutual funds. So all asset classes which are of the similar nature with similar risk profiling or with similar kind of returns that they provide, we've categorized your assets into few standard categories like equity, debt, etc. You can also click on the performance here to see your equity XIRR. This helps with you instead of seeing your entire XIRR across all asset classes. If you want to focus on an asset category and check what is the XIRR performance, you can always go to holdings, select the category of your choosing, and you can see your equity specific XIRR.
This is
As you know, we also have
This is a new feature we've added where you can now track XIRR across different categories and compare them across different benchmarks that are specific to that category. We've added new benchmarks. So we've added, rather, we can just quickly show that also. Sorry.
Yes.
We can show the new benchmarks we've added. We've added the Try Nifty Mid Cap 150 index, the Try Nifty Small Cap 250 index, and we've added two new debt benchmarks also, the CRISIL Liquid Debt Index and the CRISIL Composite Bond Index as well. Both of these can be used to compare debt investments. And there are some new updates that are coming on this feature, which I will be talking about in the upcoming features section as well.
Yeah. So if you select on a debt category, you can actually then compare your debt XIRR with the equivalent debt index to give you a correct comparison of your XIRR with the benchmark's XIRR.
So there are two different kinds of features here. My XIRR versus the CAGR, which is basically just a trend analysis of how your portfolio is moving against the index in general as an annualized growth perspective. And then the more advanced feature, which is the XIRR comparison feature, which I think most of you should be using, is the feature that allows you to replicate your portfolio's cash flows in the underlying benchmark. And this is a very computationally intensive feature, but this actually provides an accurate view of whether or not your performance is exceeding or underperforming the benchmark index. Yeah.
Correct. Next, I would like to talk about the equity exposure feature that we have. This feature provides you with an information to see how exposed you are to a particular script directly through your stock investments, through your PMS investments, and through your mutual funds and ETFs. So for example, HDFC Bank 30% exposure on this screen actually means that you're exposed to HDFC Bank either through your direct stock investments, indirectly through your PMSs and mutual funds as well. What this essentially tells you is if you're over or under exposed to any particular script, and if you want to make any changes or rebalancing into your portfolio, you can actually use this chart to see how exposed you are to a particular script in all your different portfolios.
So equity exposure will give you insights about your allocation to a specific stock across stocks, PMSs, mutual funds, and ETFs. Because if you've invested in PMSs, that also counts as your exposure to a specific equity. So because we are able to pull the underlying trades, we can provide you this equity exposure analysis. Yeah.
Right. And lastly, on the analytics, one important feature I would like to discuss about is the fundamentals integration that we have done with Screener. Basically, if there is a script that you want to analyze for a specific stock, let's say, for example, HDFC Bank here, on the right-hand side, if you can see, we have integrated with Screener. There's a tab available. What Screener does is, this tab will directly take you to the Screener's website. You will be able to analyze the script, the fundamentals, how the stock prices moved over the last few years, what is the balance sheet numbers looking like, what are the PNL numbers, what are the cash flow analysis, and also in the industry, how is it compared to the peers. So for example, in case of HDFC Bank, how is ICICI Bank, Kotak Bank, Axis Bank, etc. performing compared to how HDFC Bank is performing. They also give you various other insights like valuation ratios, PE ratios, enterprise value, EBITDA analysis, etc. So if you want to analyze your stock investments in more further detail, you can always directly go to the today's section in the analytics tab, click on Screener, and it will take you to the Screener's website where you can conduct your in-depth analysis for the stock.
And here I want to just add that we've actually tied up with Screener to provide this direct integration. It actually is something that they do really well. So instead of us providing this in MProfit for any stock, you can just access Screener's entire portal for any of your MProfit stock portfolio. So yeah. I think, Radha, there were a couple of, I see a couple of points in the chat about wanting to explain the equity exposure section again. Here, I think what I will do is in the upcoming features, I will talk a little bit about equity exposure again, because there are certain updates which I want to talk about, which are coming to equity exposure tracking in the very near future. Correct. So I think this was, a summary of what the key analytics features are. And in the interest of time, yes.
Yeah, I think just one feature we forgot to talk about is the tally integration. I'll
Yes.
just cover it in 2 minutes.
Sure.
So this is one of the very important feature we have introduced a couple of months back. Um, so you must be using MProfit for your investment tracking, and you might be using certain accounting softwares. In case if you're using Tally application for your accounting, we have done the direct integration with Tally. It's a simple three-step process. First step is basically to download your investment data in a voucher format. The second step is to use the Tally utility, a bridge we have created, which will use that voucher report and generate a Tally compatible files. And this is how the Tally utility looks like. And the third step is basically to simply uh, upload those files into Tally application. So currently you must be creating all the vouchers manually in Tally. So for example, if there is a contract note, if you have traded in 10 different stocks, bought and sold, currently you must be maintaining the vouchers, manually creating the vouchers by adding those 10 stocks, expense ledgers, crediting or debiting to your broker. If you're using integration with MProfit, this data can be directly imported into Tally application. So you don't need to actually manually create your expense or income or journal vouchers in Tally. System will be able to basically download all your investment data in a voucher format, which you can then import directly into Tally application. This very important feature we have added in MProfit. Currently, it is available in the family office version, the family office plan we have.
Just to add here on the Tally integration, we will be doing a separate webinar on this topic. That is why today we will not be able to focus on it. It is definitely a feature which we've launched in beta, and we many of our customers have already started using it. We've also put out a communication recently about it in November. But we will be doing a proper webinar to talk about Tally integration in the coming months, probably
Sure.
next month.
And
Yeah,
for timing, if you would like to see, we do have a video available on our YouTube channel, which you
right,
can look at, which actually explains these three steps in very detail. So you'll be able to try it out if required.
right. Yes, and I think since today we obviously had a lot to cover, and we've hit the 1 hour mark. Before we open the Q&A, I just wanted to quickly cover what are the new updates that are coming to MProfit. Number one being, very happy to announce that we have just launched international asset tracking in beta. It's very, very early. We just launched it 3 days ago, the first phase of the launch of the overall international asset tracking module. Uh, that is something which you can start using now if you are using MProfit plans HNI and higher. Uh, the way to use it is, you can directly, Tanmay, if you can just show it on the screen. Yeah, if you can click the plus button and you see the option now to add an international portfolio. We won't be adding it right now, but basically you can click this button. Once you add an international portfolio, it actually prompts an application update which you can do, and you can basically add the portfolio. For now, we've added US stock and ETF tracking and tracking private equities. These are the two things that we've added for international asset tracking. Then maybe we can just show. So as you can see here, there is an INR portfolios now, and you have INTL, which is the international portfolios also now. And under that, you can see that, for example, we've created a sample portfolio here where you can now start tracking and updating US stocks. We have actually tied up directly with Nasdaq to provide you live pricing on. This is end of day pricing on US stocks and ETFs. So you will be able to track your US portfolio separately and dollar denominated portfolios. To be still added is grouping of INR and USD portfolios. That is still something we're working on. But for now, what we have launched is the ability to track USD portfolios separately, and be able to at least bring those investments into MProfit as well. Our international asset tracking module will be launched in multiple phases, and you will see a lot of more updates coming here. But we encourage all of you to use this. If you want a trial of this, definitely we can enable it for you. So, anyone who wants to try this feature out and is not on the HNI or higher plan can definitely also take a trial of the plan, start using the feature and seeing how you like it. And we would love to support international asset trade statements as well. So, we are already supporting certain formats like interactive brokers, for example, but we will also support more formats in the future. So we encourage anyone who has trade statements received from Charles Schwab or any other broker, please share it with us, and we will try to definitely support those statements. That is something we do regardless of uh, whether or not you are subscribed to the plan or not. So that's definitely something you can send to us. So international asset tracking, we're very excited to launch this and to build this out further. That is number one. Number two, a feature which we are adding, and Tanmay, if you can just go back to equity exposure once again.
Yeah.
And here I'll talk a little bit about equity exposure again, for those who wanted some more clarity. This basically is a simple way for you to see how allocated you are across stocks, PMSs, mutual funds, and ETFs to a specific stock. So, for example, if you want to see what your combined exposure to HDFC Bank or Ajanta Pharma is across different products, equity exposure will give you this analysis. You can see a pie chart distribution of what your total equity exposure is across different stocks. You see what the percentage of equity exposure is So meaning that if you want to see that this is my total equity exposure, let's say my notional value of equity exposure is 1 crore, and I want to see, for example, HDFC Bank is 30% of that. It means that I have about 30 lakhs of exposure to HDFC Bank across different products, stocks, PMS, mutual funds, and ETFs. And then we also provide you what the equity exposure is, what the percentage of that exposure to that particular stock is across the whole portfolio as well. So that's what equity exposure is. It can tell you exactly what your overall concentration in a specific stock is. We are adding new updates here also. Number one, providing you a view of equity exposure across sectors and market caps. So if you want to see what your combined equity exposure across a specific sector is, like financial services or consumer goods, for example, MProfit will actually, this is coming very soon, probably end of this month or next month. You will be able to see what your notional equity exposure across stocks, PMS, mutual funds, and ETFs is to specific sectors and specific market caps as well. So that is also coming very soon. We're also adding a breakdown. Here you are seeing HDFC Bank, Ajanta Pharma in the table, CDSL, for example. You are seeing these stocks in the table here, in the stock-wise details table. We're going to provide you a way to drill down into each stock. And for each stock, you'll be able to see what your exposure is to, for that stock, what your exposure is in PMSs, what your exposure is in mutual funds, what your exposure is in ETFs. So we are going to provide you a more granular view of your equity exposure as well. This is a feature which many of you have asked for. We've already been working on it. It is in final stages of development, and we're hopeful to go live with it soon. So, we want to get a lot more analytical with the equity exposure analysis, and that's coming soon to MProfit. So that is the second, upcoming feature soon to come to MProfit. The third one is basically your blended benchmarks. We talked about new benchmarks that we've added, right? So we've added, just to recap, we've added debt benchmarks, the CRISIL Liquid Fund Index and the CRISIL Composite Bond Index. We've also added new TRI indices for your benchmark XIRR comparisons, which is, your the small cap, the mid cap, the TRI Nifty 50 was always there. So these benchmarks will actually make your portfolio more analytical. Now, what we are adding soon, maybe in the next 2 to 3 months, is a feature to provide a blended benchmark comparison. If your portfolio is 60% equity and 40% debt, and you want to compare it against a blend of a 60% equity benchmark and a 40% debt benchmark, that is coming soon too. So, that is something which will allow you to really get an analysis of overperformance or underperformance of a blended portfolio against a blended benchmark. And we will be allowing you to set blended benchmarks for every single portfolio that you have based on what you think is the equity and debt exposure for that portfolio. And relative to that, what you want to set as the blended benchmark. So that's coming very soon too. Another feature which we're working on is customized asset allocation. Now, what do I mean by that? By default, MProfit tags asset classes into equity or debt. In analytics, as you see, in mutual funds also, we are following the SEBI categorization for mutual funds. For equities also, we have overall equity, and then within that we have something called stocks. Then we tag REITs under real estate. So there was a question here, I can just quickly talk about it. REITs is something which on the classic view, yes, it shows up under the stocks category, but here in the holdings view, I once again want to emphasize the importance of tracking asset allocation under the new analytics app, because here you can see that REITs here is tagged under real estate. But now, every investor or every family office or every HNI has their own way of categorizing assets that they've invested in. For some, balanced advantage funds might be hybrid, and for some they might be equity, for example, or for some, arbitrage funds, someone might want to look at an arbitrage fund as an equity fund, and someone might want to just actually call it hybrid as per what SEBI mandates. We are going to allow you to customize the asset allocation, meaning add your own category and subcategory for every single asset that you invest in. And what that will do is, if you are an advisor and you have your own way of categorizing assets and showing those assets to your clients, you will be able to do that. And you will also be, if you're an investor or you're a family office who wants to be able to, categorize, let's say, for example, AIFs, you have different kinds of AIFs. Some might be more debt focused, some might be more equity focused. You'll be able to tag specific AIFs into the category of your choice. You can create your own category and subcategory names also. So, that's a flexibility we want to provide you, because we obviously provide you a certain asset allocation view. But, beyond that, you might have your own way of looking at things. And that is where, truly you'll be able to look at asset allocation in your own style. That's something which is coming to MProfit. Also, again, we want to launch it ASAP. All of these features, the development is very much underway. That is why I'm talking about it also. And they will be coming to MProfit, hopefully within a quarter, if not a little bit later. So that's another feature we're adding. And lastly, among the upcoming features on the near horizon, we are adding more analytical performance reports. We talked about blended benchmarks. Now we want to provide you a blended benchmark, a benchmark XIRR comparison report across all your portfolios. So you'll be able to you'll have a selection form where for each portfolio, you can select a default benchmark for yourself. And then once you generate a performance report, and we'll be happy to do a proper webinar on these features when they're live. Once you generate this, performance report, you'll be able to see performance across different time periods for different portfolios compared against specific benchmarks for each portfolio. So you'll be able to select multiple time periods in the portfolio, 6 month, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, for example. And you'll have multiple portfolios. You'll be able to set custom benchmarks, whether they are just single indices or blends of different indices. And you'll be able to compare, how your performance is for each portfolio against the benchmark for different time periods. So that is a simple PDF or Excel report that we're going to be providing you. And I think that is something which, many of you have asked for, especially, when you get savvier about your portfolio management, you want to see these insights more. So we are already working on it, and, hope to launch it soon. Yeah, so I think these are the key features upcoming in the near term. Our development team is actively working on these features, and we hope to go live with them ASAP. So yeah, I think that covers today's webinar. I hope this was useful. Yes, we tried to cover a lot of things, at once, and that is why we had to, rush through certain features. Maybe we will be, we have a YouTube channel where we have gone into details for stocks, mutual funds, PMSs separately, analytics separately. There you can definitely, see these in more detail. And we will be doing future webinars. Our goal is to make webinars more frequent, to make this more value added to you. We've had a brilliant turnout today. Over 470 people joined. So, really thankful for the overall turnout today. And we will be covering the new features in more detail, tally integration in more detail in future webinars. But, please don't wait for that. If you have questions about MProfit, about how to use it, how to set it up, we'd be more than happy to help. We have a dedicated support email, which is support@mprofit.in. You can definitely, reach out to us here, and our team will help at the earliest possible convenience. If you are new to MProfit, if you haven't set it up yet, you can definitely send us an email here also, and a member from our sales team will be happy to help set up a demo for you, or a getting started session where a product specialist from our side helps you onboard your data. So that's something which we also help with very much. So please do not ever think that, the MProfit team is not here to help. We are very much available during our business hours to help you out in whatever capacity we can. And the goal is to definitely help you use MProfit to its full potential. So thank you so much for joining today's webinar.